Hello guys, let me get all situated. I'm back for another podcast. This one, as you can tell, I'm very chill. I'm chilled out. I realized I made these cute little edits last year when I went traveling for each place I went to, so I'm going to be plugging them in. So I decided, let me just share these with you because they're a lot of fun, and I reposted them on TikTok so you can see them there too. But yeah, I hope you guys liked those edits, like the vibe. I'm going to try to embody that when I go there again because I really did enjoy making them. It does take a lot of time, but they're fun. They're fun. I'm going to talk about my trip, my backpacking experience in Barcelona and Nice. I backpacked 10 countries in like 2 to 3 months last year at this time. I'm kind of reminiscing and remembering the times, and I truly miss it. I truly miss it. And I am going to be going on a trip soon. I won't shut up about this, and you'll tag along with me for the trip too. So you're going on a trip. I want to try to explain like traveling from somebody who doesn't know how to travel. Like, we hear it from all these people that are pretty much professionals, but let me tell you, this shit is scary, traveling, and I do have some stories. I'm the type of person in a stressful situation that I calm down. If like a train gets delayed, or if we miss our train, or like we went to the wrong train station once, like at 4 a.m, you get stressed out in the moment. And I would just calm down and start to think of like, oh, what are our options? And go from there. I also want to explain the Eurail system, but basically you take a train to each country. So that was the way of transportation. One story of a stressful situation was my flight back home. I went back home by myself. Originally went to Europe with my boyfriend, but he lives in the UK. So we went to London for like a night, and I was kind of like done with traveling because he planned on staying with family in the UK for a week to a month. He didn't have any clue, and I was like, I don't want to be stuck here much longer. My money's getting low. I had family plans, birthdays coming up, but I had to fly by myself, this means. So go to Gatwick in London. I got to the airport. They wanted me to check in my bag, and it was all kind of confusing. But my bag, it seemed like it was 0.2 kilograms overweight, and instead of just like telling me to take some stuff out and put it in my like personal bag, they claimed it as a check bag. It was also confusing, so I didn't really ask all the questions. And then when I dropped my bag off, because you have to go to a different spot, they don't just take your bag from there, and you give it to these dudes that are throwing it on like a conveyor belt. And I asked them, and I was like, my bag's going to be at the final destination or my layover? Is that a layover? And they were like, final destination. But I just got a gut feeling that was wrong. I finally make it through security all by myself, just walking around this airport, looking at all the stores, just killing time. I got there so early. I figured out where my gate was, got to my gate plenty of time, like hours ahead of time. I'm just sitting there watching The Office because that's on Netflix in the UK. I don't know if it is anymore, but I was pretty hyped, so I rewatched almost the entire series in 2 months. And all of a sudden, something's going wrong with the airplane. So we're going to be changing the gates. And then everybody starts freaking out. And I'm like, oh, this is chill. I was freaking out that I was going to be late, but knowing that the plane was late, I'm like, oh, fine, take your time. But I didn't have much time in between my layover flights, so that was a little scary. So I hit up the wine bar. 3 of the mini wine bottles. I went through 3 of them. Finally, our plane was ready. That was probably like 2 hours later. We're all loading onto the plane, and I'm in the middle seat, and I immediately zonk out. I lay down and just fall asleep. This specific international flight, they had like a screen that showed your plane with a dot and then another dot of where your destination is and where your plane is along the line. And when I woke up, the plane was almost to that dot, and I was like, holy crap, that's amazing. Why it had to deceive me, because then when I looked at the time remaining, it was like 6 hours and something minutes. I fell asleep. I fell asleep for like 20 minutes, thinking I fell asleep for the entire flight. And then I got hungover, and the wine hangover was hitting me. And I went pee like 3 times, and I was in the middle seat. Get to my layover. This is a fun story. My layover in JFK, New York. I hate ginormous big airports. I get so stressed out I don't know where I'm going, so I'm the person to ask all the attendants. Any person I see, I'm like, where do I go? After making it through customs, because you have to go through that for the international flights to make it back in, you give them your passport, and then you go and collect your bag. And I stood at the wrong baggage claim for like over an hour waiting. And then I finally get the courage. I ask this dude, and he's like, you've been waiting for a while. And then we go and look at where my baggage claim actually was, and there are like no bags left. He shows me where leftover bags are stored, and my bag's not there. So then he assures me and says maybe it's already on your flight, because I was like, oh, well, the whole layover situation, I don't know. I was like, maybe my bag is already on its way to my final destination. I am like panicking because my flight is supposed to leave in like 30 minutes, and there's a huge line in front of me. And I asked this girl if I could like get in front of her because my flight, and she just looks at me and she says, oh, honey, you're not gonna make it. And I look at her like, so that's a no? I said, that's the loading time, so I'm gonna make it. Whatever. She finally let me go, and then I race and I run to my next plane, and it was delayed again. I had a whole extra hour, which was amazing. But how was I supposed to know that? So always check the boards to see if your flight is delayed, if you're rushing, because there could be a chance that the plane is late too. The plane is rushing its little legs, going through security, getting patted down, taking off its shoes, doing everything just like you. I finally made it to my final destination. The bags took a long time to come, like another hour, so my ride is just sitting outside, and it's not really convenient to park outside of an airport. Everybody's waiting for their bag and getting all pissed, and then finally they all come out, and mine is nowhere to be found. I get all the stuff to file for a baggage claim, and they didn't even give me a good like bag tag that I gave to the girl. She's like, this is what they gave you. It's like a barcode. And she's like, I don't know what to do with this. I was like, oh. Make sure you take a picture of your baggage claim, like ticket that's strapped to your bag. I never check bags. But anywho, that's a little insider and some advice. Any kind of first-time travelers, because, you know, all these influencer girlies, they got it down, and they got bags on wheels with So many compartments, all the stuff they have to bring on a trip. These influencers, like makeup products alone, and then you got all your gear and your lighting and your tripods and your cameras, your batteries, making sure you're charging your batteries every night. I am going to be so on top of it for my next trip. I didn't know anything about my potential to vlog my first time going to Europe, but this time I'm going to be putting in the work, and I'm going to let you know. I'm going to try to explain the work to you guys too, because you don't think about this. You're like, I can just pick up a camera and go to Europe. No, can't expect myself to be able to talk in front of the camera, take the content I want to take without studying it, filming myself, talking, editing. If I don't practice and I just go to Europe thinking I'm going to be able to do this shit, I'm going to get hit with the biggest brick or something to my noggin. And I'm going to be like, wow, this is a lot more work. I'm going to get overwhelmed and probably never do it. So this is me practicing. So when I'm there, it's going to be like secondhand. I'm going to be editing these videos and releasing them the day of. No, not really. I'm not. I'll keep you in the loop. Here we go. I'm going to post every day on TikTok. I'm going to come up each day with a whole vlog. That's going to be for YouTube. And I'll be posting those every Friday after vacation. But I'll have some time to edit these vlogs. And I'm also going on vacation with my best friend and her boyfriend. Super duper fun. I am telling you right now, off the bat, I don't want to hold anything back, because you're like, Olivia, why are you going on vacation? You literally complain about how broke you are every day. And instead of just sitting here lying to you saying, I'm an influencer and I'm going to Paris and sharing my experiences with the world. No, I'm going because my best friend is making bank. She said she wanted to do a girls' trip, and it ended up her boyfriend wanted to come. And I was like, yeah, that is totally fine, because I am going to be working a lot during this trip on editing and filming and stuff. So it would be cool to have a dude help me take videos and also spend some time with his girlfriend while I can go off by myself and do things like this. A win-win. I was like, no worries. My best friend said she wanted to spoil me, and I'm like, oh, you're literally my angel. She's just an amazing person. I wish I will get a water sometimes if we're going out, because I don't want her to feel like she needs to spend money on me, but I just don't have the money to go out. But she just loves to spend money on me. She is my sugar mama, and she's gonna be with me till the end of time, so I'm super excited for this trip. So this is Paris, France to Barcelona. I wanted to talk about the Eurail deal. This is Eurail.com, and they offer a deal 10 travel days within 2 months. When I checked, it said for $372, but I think they do a sale sometime. So I don't know what month they do a sale, but you can probably get them cheaper. So you sign up and you get this pass. It's like a ticket, and then once you're in Europe, so you take the plane to Europe, I recommend the first destination isn't it's not going to be logged until you leave. So you would activate it the day you're leaving, and you select at the top, it says from and then to. So from, you would put your destination and then where you want to go. And you could search any little place in multiple different countries. They share all the different stops you can make on their website. Do research like best Eurail maps or make a list of your own of places you want to go to. What we did, we had like a list of maybe 5 places that we wanted to go. Along the journey, we're also searching for the next hotel, hostel, or Airbnb, the next place we want to stay. So we will spend a few days before our checkout, we will plan the next check-in. Then you find a train station that is within the city close to your Airbnb. I recommend this because multiple times before I figured it out, I realized we were like an hour away from our hostel and we could have taken the next stop and been like 20 minutes away. The day of your trip, you are going to click activate your pass. I really recommend doing this when you're in Wi-Fi at your hotel before you get to the train station, because sometimes they might not have Wi-Fi. It depends if you have data or not. I didn't, but I recommend that because if you get there and the train station doesn't have Wi-Fi, you won't be able to activate your pass, and that's scary. And then you'll use your travel day, and it basically comes up with this QR code that is good for 24 hours. Anytime a ticket checker comes by, they will scan that, and that basically is a ticket onto the train for 24 hours. So you can take any train you want, anywhere. If you have layovers, which kind of happen a lot, where you have stops and you're at a stop for like an hour or so, you could be like, oh, maybe I want to go here instead. Like, you don't have to do what your pass, you can change it when you're in Wi-Fi. I never did that, but you never know. Spontaneous. It's a cool feature, you know? I would always avoid picking the places that have a little +1 day. That means you're going to be using 2 travel days, not just 1. Seat reservations cost extra too. There is no way to avoid this. If you have to buy a seat reservation and that's the only train, like, you have to do it. They're not expensive. Sometimes you have to sit in assigned seating, sometimes it's not. You kind of see the vibe of the train, or if it's like crowded, or if other people are looking for their seat, then you'll be like, okay, I guess I have to look for my seat. And I've definitely sat in other people's seat, and then they come by and they're like, yo, you're in our seat, and then we have to stand to find seats. And I recommend moving around, going to the back, checking out the other carts, because there will be a seat usually. I don't think that's the point of seat reservations, I think, is so they don't have more people than seats. But yeah, so just keep that in mind, because we stood for a while. We didn't know what to do. And we didn't want to start walking around with our big bags and there not be a seat anywhere, and we would have been like, okay, well, we just got in our heads. You don't have to get in your heads about that. So give yourself time to figure this out. Our train ride from Paris to Barcelona, we didn't realize like what the seat reservation was. It was our very first time, so I'm explaining this to you, but it happens to everybody, I'm sure. We get to the train station, we didn't give ourselves enough time. When we get there, the lady scanning our ticket, and she's like, this isn't the right ticket. We were so confused. We were like, what do we need to do? What? And she was like, you need to buy a seat reservation. Pointed to like a computer touchscreen thing, so we're like going through trying to figure it out. We're like getting so confused. We go to talk to the customer service desk, get some help, and by that point we missed our train to Barcelona. And I started freaking out a little bit, because this was the first place we're going to, and I was like, this is never happening again. We are setting our standards now. We are coming early to the train station no matter what. I'm not letting this happen again. This was no big deal that we missed the train, because there was another train a little bit later. I think we ended up getting there at like 9, and then our hostel was about an hour walk. We did have a late check-in, but luckily this hostel allowed late check-ins. So always check for that to make sure your hostels allow it, because sometimes they have check-in times, and if you don't arrive on time, you might miss the check-in time. It's all about ensuring that your timing is all right too. That's a tough thing, but you get the hang of it after a couple times, and you just kind of go with the flow. That's what's so fun about it. The train system is amazing here. Think of it like the Polar Express. That's kind of how I think of it. Nice fabric seating, comfy chairs. They're usually like facing each other, maybe with a little table in between. Sometimes they have food, bars, nice bathrooms. They're not always like smelling the greatest, but they're kind of decent sometimes. They also serve like alcohol, beer, wine, coffee, food even. Sometimes they'll have a kitchen and with like a little dining room area. I could live on a train. We arrived in Barcelona and we got to our hostel around 10 p.m. Paraiso hostel. It's this hostel, and a private room was about like $47, so like $20 each. Usually hostels are just like a bed and maybe a closet. There's a hallway with more bedrooms, and then they'll have like a bathroom that everybody shares on that floor, and maybe a kitchen so then you can cook. It's like super nice. Some hostels are really cool. They'll have like a bar in the basement. One time we stayed at one and they had like trivia nights. I think hosteling is the way to go if you want to travel and maybe meet other people. I can see how sometimes they could be dangerous, but for the most part, they're kind of safe, I think. I mean, you always have people that you can go to if you need help, you know? Yay. So we're in Barcelona. Day one, we got some yummy coffee and went to the Picasso Museum. First museum dedicated to Picasso, and only one created during his lifetime, March 9th, 1963. His father was a painter, specialized in birds and game. Science and Charity was one of his first paintings at 15 in 1896. So this painting is amazing. A 15-year-old does this, and you can tell he's been practicing for his whole lifetime. I really liked his style because in the museum, as he aged, it was like a timeline museum. So as he aged, you could see his pieces changing into certain periods of his life. Also, towards the end, he wanted to mainly just paint like a child. He has this famous quote, "It took me 4 years to paint like Raphael, but a lifetime to paint like a child." I just think that kind of stuck with me because I'm starting to appreciate childlike art a lot, because I understand it is hard to have that sort of imagination anymore. Like, we're perfectionists as we grow. This night, we met up with a friend of mine. I haven't seen her in ages, and she was studying abroad and literally lived like 10 minutes away from our hostel. So we met up and got some food. It was amazing. Like, it's so cool to be outside of a country and see somebody you know and is familiar. The next day we made breakfast in the hostel. Eggs in a basket? Eggs in a blanket? I don't know. That was my breakfast of choice because it's so easy, and I would whip it out almost everywhere we went. Then we walked to Fort Pence, a 3-story pavilion dedicated for vendors to sell goods. It was so interesting. It felt like things you could find in a thrift store. Old toys, jackets, clothes, electronics, purses, luggage. And sometimes it was just like random junk all over the table. And you're like, what's going on here? We walked to Sagrada Familia, world's largest unfinished Catholic church. We didn't go in, but the outside was beautiful. You can see this church blocks away, with statues and symbols, carvings covering the structure. Definitely a breathtaking piece. We went back to our hostel, took a nap, cleaned up, because this night we went to the opera. We saw Tosca, a beautiful performance, powerful music, and a story of love with a tragic ending. After we went to a restaurant to get paella. This was my first time trying, and I'd say very yummy. We stopped in an ice cream shop and walked home eating a sweet treat. I absolutely love how walkable Barcelona is. Shops everywhere, beautiful brick buildings with a small one-way road in the middle. It's just so amazing to walk around and from both sides of you see these tall structures and like elegant lighting and just be in an alley of brick. I recorded this entire episode and I went outside because I was like, oh, it's such a nice day. I'm going to go outside and be all cute. But it's windy as fuck out there and my entire take sounds like. It is a beautiful city. So I'm like, well, now I gotta redo it. I can't put it off because after something like that happens, my ass will put it off and then just forget about it because I was like, I'm a failure. I finished Barcelona kind of quickly and I wanted to add a little segment of rate this country or city, whatever, wherever I stay. I would rate Barcelona a 7 out of 10. It is a beautiful town, but the city life isn't really for me. I like nature. I like to have some sort of option for nature. And from what I saw, there wasn't that much. But I was only there for a few days, so I don't really have a good say in that. But anyways, it isn't the safest place. My friend that we met up with, she told me that a group of her friends or a group of people that she knows who are also studying abroad got their phones stolen within the first week. Maybe 7 to 9 people. I don't know. I forgot the number. But that just shows how much this pickpocketing and that stealing crime is very prevalent in Barcelona, and they kind of warn you, even our hostel was warning us to not go down certain alleys and things like that. We didn't stay long. We got here the 16th of January and then left the 19th to go to Nice, France. We left dark early morning, 4 in the morning. We got up and walked an hour to the train station. And it was so empty there, and we were just like, this is weird. We kept asking a bunch of people where the right directions were because we didn't want to get on the wrong train or anything. We wanted to be very sure, and it was so empty and broad that it was kind of hard to figure out where they were pointing at. I don't know. We got on our train and we checked in with our Airbnb, pulled up the address so we could save it to our phone, and then that way whenever we get in Wi-Fi we can just plug it in and start walking. We get comfortable and we open up our books. This time I was reading Kitchen Confidential by Anthony Bourdain, and he is a really, really good author. It's a celebrity for chefs. I really like his story and how he grew up and got to where he is, and then it talks about the kitchen dynamic, restaurants, high-end restaurants, and things like that. So I thought that was a really fun read. Definitely recommend. I am also really into autobiographies, if that's the name of it, where celebrities, memoirs, celebrities talk about themselves. I don't know. I think it's a fun little outtake, and you learn a little bit more about the person. As the train from Spain to France started, within an hour we are sound asleep. When the ticket checkers announced their entrance, scrambling to pull out our phones, we were so exhausted because we just woke up too, disheveled. He informs us that the train is stopping in Port-Boo, so it's this little town on the border of Spain to France. And he tells us France was on strike again. We didn't realize why and looked it up, so over 1 million union workers striked. January 19th could be the biggest in over 12 years, organized by opponents of the pension reform bill for increasing the retirement age from 62 to 64. So this is kind of a big deal. We were like, oh my gosh, we just picked the exact wrong day to go all the way through France on a train. We had to really scramble and find buses. I don't want to talk about Nice itself in this episode. I am going to save that for the next part 3. But I do want to finish with one last traveling story experience. I figured this episode is for the girlies that want to travel and don't see the reality in it and get so nervous about the actual event of traveling from place to place. So I wanted to kind of tell some stories about my experience because this is my first time and you might have similar experiences, or it's just kind of a whole different feeling when you're doing it for the first time. So I really recommend in any sort of situation where a strike is going on or anything like that is just having like a buddy. And if you are going from country to country doing this Eurail system by yourself, there is an option if you're staying at hostels that you will automatically get put in this group chat with other people using hostels staying in the city, and usually backpackers that are traveling just like you. A lot of people in this group chat are just talking about like plans for the night, what they want to do, where they want to meet, and you can chime in and meet some people this way. And I think it's a really sweet community aspect. If you want to see like where somebody is going next, maybe you can plan to travel to the next location together so you're not traveling alone if you want. I didn't really do that because I had my boyfriend, but I'm just giving some advice if anybody wants to travel by themselves. So we make it to Pt.2, a beautiful little village, so small. Here is the map. This was a ghost town, but we met this guy at the train station where a bunch of police officers were patrolling, helping people figure out where to go. And by people, I mean literally just us, as everyone else got off the train a stop prior, maybe because Pt.2 is so small and have little to no trains, just a few that go to France. I don't know. I was like, why didn't we get off at the stop prior? We just didn't think about it. And that happens to everybody. And we just stayed on the train with this one other guy, and he was so sweet. I forgot his name, but he had like 4 different baggages. I swear, he was so cute. He barely spoke English, but we agreed to stick together. So we took a Uber to the next city over, which was very beautiful to just wind around these bendy roads and get over there. And then from there, we stopped at like a little coffee shop and asked the bus route, figure out what the bus route is, if there was a bus coming, and there was, and it was going towards our next like train stop that would have been a train. From here, we took a few buses to Nimes, where we saw thousands of people protesting, waving flags, shouting. Like, appreciate everybody that was along the way of this journey, because there were so many people that we asked, and we stuck with that first initial guy for a while until we like split off and we found multiple different buses, figuring out where they're going, like taking Ubers to other train stations until we finally made it to Marseille at 9 p.m., which is still 2 to 3 hours away from Nice. We were informed that there was no possible other routes that are going that way. No buses, nothing. We were pretty defeated, so then we decided to get a hotel not too far from the train station. We got some food and we hung out. We just relaxed. Tried to go to bed really early because we wanted to wake up to the first train to Nice. So we would finally make it to our Airbnb in Nice. It was just a 3-hour train ride, and it was like at 4 o'clock in the morning. So we were like, maybe we won't sign in to our Eurail, and we didn't have a ticket to scan, and none of the ticket guys like asked anybody for their ticket. I think this day they were really lenient because although they were protesting a really big thing for them, they also maybe felt bad for the people that it impacted. Now, obviously, if you're on a train at 4 in the morning, it probably did impact you, maybe? I don't know. I am so glad for that experience, and just so you know, never be afraid to ask around and ask for help, and you might meet some really nice people that way. And if you're just very friendly, the people are going to be very friendly to you. I hope you enjoyed this episode where I talked about my little traveling experiences, physically going through the motions, place to place. I hope that kind of helped put it in perception of maybe you can do it, and looking into the Eurail and seeing options of where you can go. And there are other options besides 3 months. You don't have to do the big deal, but it is a good deal. Thank you guys for sticking around. My next part 3 is going to be going to Nice, and we stay there for probably like 5 days, and it was a very cute, fun little town. I'm excited to talk about this one. But yeah, I hope you guys are enjoying. If you have any questions or concerns or anything about traveling in general, let me know. I'd love to answer some things. Let's do this. We are young and we are doing things for the first time, and we're learning, and I want to share my experiences because some people are afraid to try these things, and I just want to put at ease and help see a reality in a future that involves exploring the world and your potential. I never know how to finish these episodes. I wish I had a system. Thank you guys for sticking around. Remember, I got my little TikTok and YouTube, and now I'm on like Spotify as well. So remember, you can check out more episodes. Part 1 is on here. Little vlogs on YouTube and TikTok. I just do whatever. I'm kind of sick of TikTok, but whatever. We gotta do what we gotta do, don't we? Here. See you guys. Goodbye. I hope you guys have a lovely week.